start. So thank you everyone for being with us for this pitch session, startup pitch session. So I'm Alice Birolo, I'm senior consultant at Impulse Partner, and I'm glad that you were able to join us today for this session. And our goal for today is to provide you with an international overview on how tech is developing in smart cities, featuring startup companies. So in the coming month, we will organize also further pitch session dedicated to the topics of energy and clean tech, along with Thomas and Zineb, that are my colleague at Impulse Partner, that you will see on the slide. And so today's startup pitch session will be dedicated to smart city. And I'm glad to talk to you about such a rich and dynamic topic that we at Impulse Partner try to make as concrete as possible. It's not so easy, but we try. And we have qualified smart city through 5 axes: sustainability, mobility, resilience, citizen inclusion, and frugality. And on each of those dimensions, there are different kinds of innovation and tech that can have impact on cities. And the idea is to help startups develop and test their impact through and in collaboration with the public sector, corporate, and citizens. And because of these players have a role to play in urban development, and we are convinced that all the players in the value chain can be impacted by what is happening in smart cities innovation. So all of them have the responsibility, all of these actors have the responsibility to evaluate the potential of those innovation and to collaborate to develop them. So to go further in details in this pitch session, I will let Zineb the stage to present the startups of the day. So Zineb, the stage is yours.
Thanks. And as you can see, we will have the opportunity today to discover a national panorama of solutions in a smart city. So David will present us first Clever City, a parking optimization solution that guides the drivers to the most convenient available space, reducing search traffic and vehicle emissions, and of course, maximizing the value of parking assets. Then Bengt Jones will present us disruptive technologies, a complete wireless sensor solution, the size of a keyboard key. Then we'll have the opportunity to hear about EnerBrain thanks to Alberto. It's a solution which develops sensors to analyze environmental data, energy management, and remote control of a building with the HVAC system. Then Josh will present Metricus, which offers a solution for aggregating data from all connected objects within a building or a district and provides a platform for accessing associated dashboards and monitoring the occupancy of premises, indoor air quality, energy consumption, etc. And finally, Andrea will present Parkery, a solution which provides customers with real-time results on occupancy and exact parking duration. Retail, real estate, airports, train stations, private parking lots, bus depots, gas stations, etc. So thank you everyone for being here with us. And to begin this second session, pitch session, I'll let David present us Clever City.
Hi everyone, it's great to see you all. Thanks for joining this morning from Europe, this evening from Asia. And so Clever City, I'll give you the quick overview. We really focus on minimizing time in cars. We call it vehicle minutes traveled and the emissions associated with that circling, and while simultaneously maximizing the value of parking assets. So we're really all about helping drivers to find a space quickly and getting them off the road, eliminating traffic congestion and having the owners of parking assets be able to maximize the revenues that they're able to generate from those assets. Next slide, please. Sorry, is there someone who can click the presentation?
Yeah, no, you'll just have.
Oh, perfect.
Sorry, you'll have a time of latency. Sorry.
No worries. So this, so the perfect parking experience that I just want to explain how everything comes together. So if you imagine a city street or a parking lot, you want to be able to understand the occupancy status of every space. Without that status, you can't guide a driver to the space. Spaces go unused, and you can't then match payment status to the occupancy. So you're not sure are people who are using the spaces paying for them. So we have these extremely accurate IoT edge computing sensors, which you see in the upper right corner that we place on lampposts, and those sensors look down and monitor the street or the surface lot, and they identify where the parking spaces are, and also capture the real-time status of those spaces. And then we have a suite of local digital guidance solutions, which are these smaller circular signs that wrap around a lamppost, or larger full digital displays that can provide information guiding drivers turn by turn to a space. And then finally, of course, there's also an app that users can use to get more personalized guidance. So if they're a disabled person and they need to find a handicapped accessible space, or for example, they're an electric vehicle and they need to find an available EV charger, it's difficult to put all of that information on physical signs throughout the city, and so the app helps to give that personal guidance exactly to the space that they need. Next slide. So I'm going to show you on the next slide an overview of a city that we work with. It's called Redwood City, California. And in that city, so it's in the heart of Silicon Valley. They have roughly 4,500 spaces in the downtown area. And we've pulled together the parking occupancy data of all of the spaces that a person so a driver who's arriving, who's a public person, every space that they could possibly park in. So every space that's on street, that's in the green area, every space in a surface lot, every space in a garage. And by having the real-time data of all of the spaces they could park, we can then find the optimal space for them and guide them directly into it. So you can imagine as you're arriving the edges of the city, the traffic flows are shown in this picture. So in the bottom left corner, there's 19%. So most of the people, or at least 20% of people, are arriving through this one area. Clearly, as they arrive in that direction, there's a big digital sign that gives them guidance of exactly where they should go. And that combines data from garages and streets and surface lots. And then as they get closer throughout the city, they're presented with smaller digital Circ 360 signs that wrap around a lamppost and guide people turn by turn. We also have pulled all the payment data from each individual space together with the occupancy data of each individual space. And so for the parking management team of the city, we can show them in real time a view of the status of every space, and is it occupied, is it paid, and they can then best manage their parking operation. And the goal of all this is really to, so that the city wanted to reduce traffic congestion, and they wanted to help boost local businesses, especially as they're recovering from the pandemic, to help make it really easy for people to arrive, park, go out to eat, spend money at a local boutique. Next slide, please. And so some of the results that we've worked with over 200 locations around the world, in the US and Germany, in the UK and many other countries. And we've pulled together a lot of the results that we've seen. And so one of the key things is what's the ROI? So how could a city pay for this? And what we've now demonstrated is that through parking guidance and through the elimination of traffic congestion and through filling spaces more efficiently, can actually help cities to grow their parking revenues in a way that generates an ROI. And of course, that'll change city to city, but we have customers that have experienced a 2-year ROI from deploying the solution. And so that comes from a combination of increased payment compliance. So we've seen a 15% increase in payment compliance without doing any additional enforcement. So we're not like, sending the police the moment you haven't paid. And then also through increased asset utilization. So by finding these hard to find spaces in every city, there's 5 or 10% of spaces that are just not occupied, even though it feels like parking is full, and we can fill those spaces. We also have reduced significantly traffic congestion. So we've been able to cut roughly half of parking search time, and parking search in a typical downtown area is maybe 30% or so of traffic. And so if we can cut half of that, we can actually cut 15% of traffic overnight. And there's almost no other solution you could imagine, and certainly no solution that's inexpensive that allows a city to reduce traffic so greatly and so quickly. And then finally, on the business side of things, much of the purpose of a downtown is shopping or dining, and we want to support local businesses, especially after the pandemic. And 3/4 of shoppers who've used the Clever City solution have found that it highly influences their shopping experience. So they arrive happier, they have more time, they're likely to spend more money in local shops. So let's jump to the next slide and I'll show you the overall platform. So we combine this real-time accurate occupancy data that I was talking about with guidance. And by having this data layer over the city of every space and its status, we can then, the guidance displays can guide people dynamically to the right space. We then pull in payment data, so all the live, accurate, real-time payment data as well. And then we have a compliance solution that helps the parking management teams to guide their enforcement officers to violating parkers. And then finally, all that gets pulled together into the insight component, which is our cockpit, the main dashboard that gives you both a live view and also really deep insights into trends over time, so you can better establish your parking policies. I'll just show you 2 more glimpses into both occupancy and guidance, and then we can wrap up. The next slide shows on the occupancy side how the sensor looks on a lamppost. It's generating this really accurate, reliable single space detection. So for every space, we know its status. And then we also pull in data from other sources. So it could be from a parking garage. It could be from a barrier that's letting people in and out of a certain parking area, or it could be another parking occupancy provider. I know Parkway will be on later, so we can also integrate with their data. The next slide is a view of how the guidance works. And so you can see actually this big sign is the one I was talking about earlier on. As you're just arriving in the city of Redwood City, you can now see this overview of all the different places to park. And then as you get closer to an area on the right, you see the legacy big blue key with an arrow. And we've now added to that the digital accurate 70 spaces are available right now. And so with this data, we can then, of course, build trust with the drivers that that they can follow the signs, and then as soon as they start following the signs, that creates a very significant reduction in traffic congestion. So that is, I believe, everything. And I think we have a Q&A opportunity.
Yes, of course. We have a first question on the chat, and then I invite everyone just to turn on your microphones if you want to ask directly your questions or type them down. So the first one is from Shimizu Corporation. It's saying that's interesting. Is your customer mainly local government?
Yeah, so I'd say it's about 80% or so of our customer base is actually local governments. On top of that, of course, parking is everywhere. So we also work with corporate campuses, universities, airports, shopping malls. We have one of the biggest shopping malls in Germany, for example. Yeah, it all what we find, especially during pandemic times, there's been really growing demand from municipalities, and that's one of the biggest places that we can have a really positive impact.
Okay, great.
And then the next question was about the app is not compulsory, and that's correct. Yeah, so one of the big philosophical points that we like to make is that if you just provide the data on an app, you can address 5 or 10% of the users. If you imagine, how many people are going to take the time to install an app. What you want to really have a significant impact on traffic congestion, you want every driver to use the system. And the only way to get every driver to use it today is guidance signage. And in 10 years or so, autonomous cars and connected vehicles can get all that data by API. And so you're set up for that with the Clever City solution, but that's not a reality today. And so we need physical signage to bridge the gap over the next few years. And then the next question is about, in Japan, owners of parking lots are mainly private companies. Have you integrated information from each private company? And yes, that is, and in fact, in Redwood City, which is the example I was using earlier, there's 11 garages that are connected to our platform. Only 3 of them are owned by the municipality. The others are all private garages. And so we've pulled in all the data where a public person could park, whether it's a privately owned garage or a public. And I think that's really important, that you have a comprehensive guidance solution, not just one that's guiding people to a piece of the parking. In Europe, it's really common in cities to have guidance to parking garages within the cities, but then you don't have guidance to the on-street spaces or the surface lots. And if you imagine what you would do yourself, typically you'll drive in a few circles first to see if there's a space on street, and then you'll eventually follow the sign to a parking garage. If you knew when you first arrived that the sign told you there is no parking on street, don't try, just go straight to the garage, you would eliminate quite a lot of traffic.
Great.
Can I ask you one question?
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Shimizu. From the example explained, they were mainly outdoors, but I was wondering if your system can also be applied within the indoors parking lot within the facility.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we have many customers with indoor parking, of course, and the sort of problem of detecting indoor spaces has earlier been solved. It's easier because you can put a little sensor on the roof, or you can put a camera at the entry or exit. And so we integrate with some partner solutions to provide indoor detection. But and then the sensor that's really our IP, the sensor that we've developed in-house covers all the other areas which had not previously been solved. But the most biggest driver of value at the end of the day for the city is pulling all of that data together, so the indoor and the outdoors, so that you have one comprehensive experience.
Thank you.
Of course. And then there's a question about you're from Munich, but why did you succeed getting contract in Redwood City? So we have offices in, so it's right here actually, in both the US and in Germany. And we have a small and growing team in the US. And we also, I'm currently sitting in Munich at our headquarters, but as an American, I also spend quite a lot of time with our US clients. And then, can you install on any existing lamppost? Yes, of course. The power for the solution actually comes from the lamppost. And one of the biggest challenges that we've faced is that not all lampposts have 24/7 power, and as a result of that, we actually have created in the last year a battery-powered version of every one of our devices, so that if the place that we're deploying doesn't have 24/7 power on the lamppost, we can offer a battery version of that device, and it will charge at night when the lamppost is on, and then run the solution throughout the day. And then I think I sort of already answered the other question about managing the energy supply. And then the last question is about what's the next step of our business. So we have so a couple things. So first of all, we've spent an enormous amount of time on R&D and having a really solid, clearly the industry leading product. We are now about 10 years since our original founding, and we're really in scale-up mode now. So we have a strong suite of flagship clients. We have a very significant pipeline that will lead to more than doubling revenues this year, and the expectation to continue to grow at that sort of trajectory in the future. And so we are over the next year or so probably looking to find strategic partner or a source of a future funding round to accelerate that growth even further.
Great, thank you so much. I think if there's no more questions, we can pass to the next presentation. Thank you so much, David. And of course, you'll have the contacts of everyone, so that you can continue the discussions if you want to. I'll now welcome Ben Jones for the presentation of disruptive technologies.
Hi, and thank you for inviting me. My name is Ben Kunnberg, so I'm the CEO of the company. So if you go to the next couple of slides down, I think there are some start pages here that we can skip. We can skip this one and this one, that's me, and then go to the next slide. So what we do, we provide wireless sensors and IoT infrastructure. Our focus is to provide sustainable hardware and deliver value through that hardware for our partners and end customers. We are focusing on a partner network where partners build a solution application on top of our hardware solution without them worrying about connectivity, hardware deployment, or certification. Next slide. So IoT has been a buzzword for a really long time. And everyone talks about the data-driven world, and a lot of companies is working with AIs, they are working with the digital twins and all these kind of things. And a part of that will be a need of sensors, and that's where we are focusing our efforts. We have developed a sensor suite based on base case is tiny, small sensors that can be installed anywhere. And with extremely long battery life, very low maintenance cost, and easy to integrate through any cloud. Next slide. So if you look at the feature of our, what we call the world's smallest wireless sensor, is a fully integrated sensor, the touch of a keyboard button. It's weighs 2 grams, is waterproof, and a battery lifetime of up to 15 years. In scale, it will have a very competitive cost, and it's very easy to integrate through any system. And of course, it's end-to-end encrypted, where the data is totally secured for our clients and partners. Next slide. So if we look at the product itself, next slide, there is a product overview. So to explain to you how the system works. So we have a wireless sensor that is connected to the cloud through a cellular gateway. It goes either on Ethernet or cellular. And then we have a cloud that you either can go into our own studio and fleet management system, or you can connect through webhooks and APIs to develop applications on top of our sensor solution. What we care about is secure data to the cloud that is accurate. The wireless sensor is, as said, end-to-end encrypted, meaning that it's a cloud connector independent. So the sensor will roam between cloud connectors. So when you expand the area you want to cover, as long as you have cloud connector coverage, the sensors will roam seamlessly between those cloud connectors. It also sends a heartbeat to the cloud every 15 minutes to tell that I'm alive. And there is also a full fleet management tool to monitor the status of your connectivity and also the battery condition on the sensors. Next slide. So we have some incorporated product values, and that is simplicity. Simplicity when it comes to installation. There is no pairing required. Everything is pre-commissioned when you get it. It's reliability. We are monitoring the solution and we are making sure the connectivity is secured to our customers 24/7. It's a secure solution with end-to-end encryption, where data is encrypted via a encryption code in the sensor when we produce it, and there is an encryption code in the cloud that verifies it. And then sustainable. Long battery lifetime, up to 15 years on the small sensors here. And of course, then also reduce your maintenance cost and also reduce the waste long term. Next slide. So how you mount these small sensors is very easy. It's a peel and stick principle. You take off the linear at the back and you can place it on any object that you want to monitor. If you look at next slide, if you look at our sensor types as a default now, we have 5 main type of sensors, and then we have different variants within each type. It's temperature, it's a touch feedback button, it's a proximity that can sense things that is nearby in proximity. It's a water detection, leakage detection, and also temperature and humidity. Those are the base sensors we have, and then we have variants. So if you go to the next slide. So an example of a variant would be an industrial sensor that is made to manage much higher temperatures and a different type of chemical is in the batteries that makes the sensor last up to 10 years at 70 degrees. Next slide. We have also sensors developed particularly and certified according to food directories in the Europe. So EN 12830 is a certification solution for food safety and food monitoring in Europe. So those are the different type of products we have. And the next slide, we also have a sensor that can sample temperature between the heartbeat. And again, so we can actually sample the temperature up to every 30 seconds, and we send that result every 15 minutes to the cloud. And the sample frequency can also be set by the customer through the API. So then you will have a lot of data and still maintain that battery life. As said, we are a platform. We are also evolving now into other types of sensors with the same focus that we have on battery life and simplicity and maintenance. So next slide. So now, these days, we are also releasing a CO2 sensor to measure indoor CO2. And it's, again, our integrated values in terms of simplicity, totally secure, but also with 2 AA batteries, it will have a lifetime of up to 10 years, sending the CO2 measurements every 5 minutes. And with that, we'll go to the next slide. We have a kind of a product suite that looks like this, with the gateways, our CO2 sensors, and our small miniature sensors. And we are also now coming with a PIR sensors for people detection in rooms. Next slide. A bit about the market. As said, we are focusing mainly through partners, and next slide, we address mainly 2 markets today, which is the smart building and corporate real estate. And we don't sell solutions within all these things. However, these are the areas we are working in and where we have partners working together with us, building applications. And I think one of our partners is actually on the call and will present later today, which is Metricus. The other market we are looking into is the industrial IoT sensor market, which has some different parameters, which we also will develop towards going forward. A bit about our core technology. So if you go to the next slide. So how have we done this? Well, first of all, next slide, we have developed our own silicon. So inside our sensor, we have our own semiconductor that has been developed for this purpose, making sure we can have extremely long battery lifetime. At the same time, being able to power manage all the components within the sensor to make sure that we can have this battery life as said. Next slide. Security. As said, security is an integrated part of our solution, and it's end-to-end encrypted. So what we do in our production, we load a security code and identifier before we do the SMT of the sensor, and that is then verified by the cloud. The cloud connector does not do anything with the signal rather than just transmitting through the cloud. So if one sensor is within range with several cloud connectors, the system works that all the cloud connectors relay the message to the cloud, and then the clouds find out, okay, it's that sensor, and it relays back to one of the cloud connectors that your message is received. And that integrity means that you cannot tap any data out of the cloud connector, and it's all pre-commissioned. We have also, next slide, invested a lot in infrastructure and manufacturing. So we produce this in Germany, and we are prepared to scale up the business now with a capacity of more than 600,000 sensors per year. Very short on our go-to-market. So if we go to next slide, our focus is partners and working through partners. So next slide, please. And we believe in delivering value through our partners. And we have different type of partners today. We have solution providers. We have commercial real estate application partners, system integrators, and service providers. And what we do, we are making sure that the data is accurate and secure. And then you can either, for testing and demo purpose, use our own software application, our web application, demoing it and testing it out. However, the true value of a true solution comes together with the partner, where the partner then build an application on top of ours. If that is a predictive maintenance solution for engines, if it's a smart cleaning solution where they monitors uses of doors and restrooms via using our proximity sensor, or if it's a desk occupancy solution using our temperature sensor to measure desk occupancy, that's not the most important thing for us. We just make sure the data is accurate, and that's also how our partners use that data to build their solution or expand their offering to their customers. Next slide. So some of the benefit of our solution is that it requires minimal investments. It's easy to test the pilot. It has a very low deployment cost and development cost in terms of you don't have to do any on-site pairing. There is no hardware pairing at all. It's all pre-commissioned in the cloud when you receive the the products, you basically just log in and data will start flowing, and you will see that when you log into our system. Of course, during operation with a long battery life, very low maintenance cost, typically competitors today, if they have 2 or 3 years battery life, and if you have 1,000 sensors, you basically go around and as an average, you have to change some batteries every single day. This is also an extremely important part of our solution, the long battery life. And of course, also in addition, we are monitoring the solution. We are monitoring the cellular connectivity on the cloud connectors you have installed. We are monitoring the connectivity, and we will give you alerts if something is wrong. So next slide, our commercial model is a simplified model. As said, we have a hardware cost and a subscription cost per year for the sensor data, both for the sensor and the cloud connectors. And then a part of that in delivery then is the API accessible access, and of course our own studio. So this is our commercial model. When it comes to our future plan, our main focus will be developing more offering with the same technical feature, focusing on long battery life and zero maintenance. And we want to be the industrial leader on easy to use, secure IoT sensors. And of course, we believe transparency is extremely important, making sure the customers are in control and our partners are in control, understanding what products are in use, where are they installed, and what do I pay for them. And right now we are scaling up the business. We entered US just recently last year, and we're now expanding that team. And we will leverage on our partner program, and our plan is also further expansion in Europe and US, but also start looking at APAC as it is now. And again, to be able to drive this forward, we want to create a safe and fun place to work. With all this, we believe that we will be able to create a world-leading profitable IoT sensor platform. So that concludes my presentation. As said, our main focus is being that IoT platform, making sure data is secure and accurate.
Great, thank you so much. We have already some comments and questions on the chat. So 15 years of battery life is incredible. First, is it possible to use for moving body?
It's depending what you mean by that. So maybe I could get a bit more flesh on that. The sensor, if it's not within range of the cloud connector, it will not report to the cloud, of course, because it needs connectivity. Okay. The connectivity we have is also default cellular, so you could bring you with the connectivity. So yes, it will be possible as long as you are within range. And we have customers today that use this in warehouses, and they basically move products around in the warehouse, and it's always connected because they have basically cloud connector coverage inside the building. The other thing we are looking at in our roadmap is to do an offline logging of temperature, and then make the temperature sensor also into a logging device, and then reports the results when it gets connected.
Okay, I see. Then there's another question. Could we get detailed information of accuracy of sensors for temperature?
Then I have to find my data sheet, but I believe that is an absolute accuracy of 0.05 degrees. It's the absolute accuracy, but I need to look that up. I don't have that in my head.
Okay. And have you already had a partner in Japan?
No, we have done some tests in Japan with some customers. We are not certified in Japan yet. It's one of the close countries we are exploring in APAC together with Singapore, Australia, and also New Zealand.
Okay, clear. Also, could you explain about Gateway Cloud Connector and how many sensors can a connector send information to cloud?
And in practice, there is no limit. We use this device when we are testing our products in the manufacturing, and The biggest test we have done is 30,000 sensors reporting through one cloud connector. So what we say is that in practical life, there is no limit. We believe the limit is around 100,000 sensors to one cloud connector, but I think that's not a practical number to operate with. What is required to use the sensor in Japan? Well, what is required there is the certification, and I believe we could use the frequency band that we use in the US, which is the 916 megahertz. However, in Japan, there is a regulation where you have to listen before you talk on the air, and that's kind of a product feature from a software standpoint we have to solve, and then get it approved by the local radio authorities according to that type of certification that is needed. Except for that, I think the rest of the platform is okay because we are using cellular roaming, and then of course that is the standard model we are using. So it's more on the sensor communication side that needs to be taken care of.
Okay. And I think maybe you answered to it, but could you suggest the step to introduce into Japanese society? I think it's part of your answer, right?
Yeah, I think first of all, I think having a partner there is one thing that we need to find out the business interest, and then the technical aspect of it is what I talked about, because that's really what you need for doing any of this business in Japan.
Okay. Does anyone have other questions?
Yes, I have one. If we want to be very accurate with the temperature and other information, how many pieces of these sensors do you suggest we put in, let's say, each squeeder meter?
Oh, that's of course depending on, if you look at that square meter as a pixel, right? So as I think, right, if you want to create a heat map on a square meter level, I think it's just deciding the pixel, because in reality, if you look at the sensor, if you can see I'm holding it up, so you can go down to really small areas, because what it will measure is the temperature on that spot, right? But from any practical purpose, I would say that don't put it on the outer wall. Try to put it where to measure the room temperature. We also have devices to mount it on to get it off the wall, for example. But I think in reality it's depending on what you actually want to measure, because in theory you can basically put a heat map on the floor, right, and then measure. You will get all those measuring points.
Hi.
Right, thank you.
Hi. Actually, we are collaborating a company named Haltian, which is a provider of sensors and digital twin like that. Do you think you can integrate to this system? This is real-time information of our head office in Tokyo.
Yeah, that is definitely possible. I think Haltian acquired a Norwegian company for that purpose last year.
Tietoevry.
From Tietoevry,
Australia.
yes, they bought it from Tietoevry, and we already have an integration to that platform, actually.
Yeah.
That platform was called
Empathic Building.
Yeah, Empathic Building, and we already have an integration to that, actually.
Okay, good.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Ben Jones, for the presentation. It was very interesting. Well, I'll let Alberto present us Enerbrain. We'll share.
Thank you.
Wait.
Thank you, Zineb. Thank you, Zineb. Hi, everyone. So I'm Alberto Riboni, in charge of international development for Enerbrain. You can skip to the next slide, please. Enerbrain is an Italian company that was founded back in 2015. It started by the ideas of 4 people, and now we are more than 60 people distributed more in Italy and then around the world in different countries. We're talking about technical experts that are developing our solutions. Please, next slide. Our vision actually is to, we set up Enerbrain because we believe that towns and cities must be sustainable, smart, and people-oriented. And we decided to do that through the utilization of artificial intelligence to make the performance of the buildings more sustainable inside the ecosystem where we live. Please, you can go on. The next slides give you an idea of how we are developing at the global level now our solution. As you see, everything started in Italy, but now we are actually working with system partners at the global level. I'm personally based in Paris, France, and I'm in charge of the development of the French market and UK market, and I have colleagues that are working in all the European countries. We started some operation before the pandemic with a joint venture in Japan, but things had to slow down actually because of the global situation. And now we are starting back again to work with them. One of my colleagues is right now also in the US. We've been selected recently by Saint-Gobain to be working with them in their Boston incubator. So we are starting also to develop our business plan for the US market. In the next slide, you can see an overview of what is our Enerbrain solution. Everything started with the development of our algorithm, which is based in a cloud, equipped with artificial intelligence and deep learning. But quickly we decided and we defined that we needed our own devices to collect the data from the field, from the buildings, and to go up to the optimization of the HVAC systems. So we are covering, let's say, the whole circle from the collection to data up to the optimization of the actuation of all the HV equipment. And as you can imagine, I'm talking about air handling units, boilers, chillers group, whatever is providing your comfort utilities inside the building. So at the moment, we have more than 400 buildings connected and 12 patented hardware. You can skip to the next slide and we get into the detail of what are our sensors. This is an eSense, which is the sensor that we developed to collect internal temperature, humidity, relative humidity, and CO2 levels of the spaces that are used by people actually. These are plug and play sensors. They don't need to be cabled. And once they are activated and put on the wall, they start transmitting information in the cloud through Sigfox network. And we can also operate that through LoRa network. So if you know the Sigfox network, which is covering actually more or less at a global level of different countries, this chip that is included in our sensor just transmit data according to the definition that the clients need. So we can go up to 12 to have transmitting information, each every 12 minutes directly to the cloud. All these information are sent, as I said, into our cloud, are analyzed according to what the needs of the building are in the algorithm, and are sent back to our devices connected directly to the machines, so to our eNodes, which are described in the next slide. The eNode is an actuator. It's an actuator that can control and transmit directly the information to the equipment that are installed in the building. So we can connect that directly to every air handling units that are present into the building, giving directly through the algorithm the level of the operation level actually that is needed to guarantee the comfort levels that are required by the client and by the occupations of the building. When I'm talking about building, actually, I'm talking about every kind of building. We are working with residential buildings. We're talking with hospitals. We are working with municipalities, schools, but we are also working with industrials, companies that needs to control and to optimize their consumption for the HVAC systems. The last part of our activity is also concerning the collect and the analysis of all the electrical and energy consumption, which are then available through our web app. So you can imagine that all the information that we are collecting from the field are then available in real time through our dashboard in our web app that will be available of course, for our client to check in real time what's happening inside the building and to transmit to them and make available any kind of key figures of KPIs that the client is needing to better and to completely follow what's happening inside the building. Please, Zeynep, you can go on. Of course, we faced a lot of challenges and we propose our solution. So we are working in buildings that are occupied by people, by user, by final user. But of course, we are talking with facility managers, providing them a better solution to integrate also the BMS that usually are available in modern buildings, but giving them an open source solution and a plug and play solution that can help them to get all the information in real time there. We are talking with asset owners that of course have a lot of pressure to try to reduce their OPEX expenses and making the building more sustainable. And of course, we are helping utilities to deal with all these real-time demand response management and energy consumption that are typically developing in all these communities, in smart communities. Please, Zeynep. Why choose EnerBrain? Actually, we are delivering savings, of course, from your energy consumption, and we are demonstrating actually that 10% is easily reachable, but we are also giving more than that to a lot of our customers nowadays in Europe. We guarantee 90% of comfort time for internal users, and we have, according to the average project that we are developing, we have a really short time period of payback, because our business model is based on an hardware solution that we can develop and sell according specifically to the kind of building we are approaching, and a fee for the connection, for the yearly connection to our cloud to make the system available and of course operating. We have a focus on the comfort level, so what's happening inside the building for the final users. And we applied machine learning to our system, so to our algorithm. And of course, the accuracy of the sensors is something that is really something at the center of our evolution and development. We already reached the third revision of our sensors since 2015, and also of the e-nodes that are connected to the equipment. One more, Zeynep, please. What we can deliver, let's say a synthetic slide that gives you the whole picture. So we can provide air quality monitoring and showing the data to the building occupants and to the management of the building. We can improve the indoor comfort, providing a better indoor experience, and reduce the energy consumption for each HVAC, as I said, 10, 15, 20, but even 30% of reduction of energy consumption is something that we are actually providing to our, for example, to one of our biggest French companies, clients here in Paris. And the fourth part is the monitoring of energy consumption through our e-meters, which are some specific electricity meters that we developed to collect all the information and sub-metering at sub-meter levels for the energy consumption of your utilities. One more, please. Just to give you an idea of who are the clients we are working with at the moment. These are divided for kind of, let's say, companies. We are working with utilities and ESCOs, which are typically what we call the system partners, because these companies are helping us to go towards their clients. We are working with them to develop a solution, and we are helping them to reach the energy performance contract that they are selling to their final clients. Last year, we had the chance to strengthen our, let's say, our deal with EDF company, so the main electrician company in France that decided to enter into the EnerBrain capital. So they are working with us to develop the solution here in France, but also around Europe. We are working with shopping malls and retailers, as you see, but also industrial clients, and what I was telling you, the hospital offices and municipalities to install our solution to help them to reach the targets that they have of emission reduction, CO2 emission reduction, that are, of course, something really, let's say, important nowadays. Last slide. couple of slides. I think we are getting towards the end of the presentation. To give you an idea of the international awards that we could reach and get during the last 5 years, starting from the development in 2015. So we had the chance to be selected and to be helped to grow by all these companies and international selection that help us to reach the level of development where we are now, and to help us to let's say to put in place our business plan for the next years. So I've just reached the end of my presentation. I believe the deck of slides will be shared with our colleagues, and you get my direct contact for any inquiries. And
yes, thank you so much, Alberto. We have some questions.
Yeah, of course. The JV partner. Actually, I need to get the correct name of the joint venture partner that we have in Japan. I was sharing the information with my colleague yesterday, but we'll be more than happy to share the information by mail with you if you just send me your contacts or write me an email to be able to complete the information. No, you mentioned the sensor is plug and play audio sensor. Our sensors are equipped with their own battery, and according to the level, I mean, to the frequency of transmission of the data, the battery is has a life, let's say a life duration, which is changing. Typically, we recharge the battery every 5 years. So once the sensors are installed, we supply the maintenance, and every 5 years we can charge the battery, which is charged through an USB. Yeah, but it's not let's say accessible outside. You just have to open the sensor and charge the battery. It's plug and play because actually, yeah, you don't need any more cabling, and the sensor is automatically pre-installed to start the transmission and to connect to the Sigfox network that I was mentioning before. You control BEMS using information from sensors. Your system overlays BEMS. That's an interesting question. We have 3 different ways of interacting with the existing system. The one I was describing in during my presentation is what we call the man in the middle. So we typically install our devices between the existing BMS, if there is one, of course, and the machines, the equipment. What happens is that our cloud and our algorithm will get and will send the actual operation details to the machine through the eNode. And yes, it will be, let's say, over in some way between the BMS and the equipment. If for any reason something is not working at the connection level, etc., our devices just will go on standby mode, and the BMS will just go on connecting with the equipment and giving the correct information. So typically that's one of the way we can work, but that's the simplest way, let's say. We can go for what we call Enerbrain as a service, and this is something more specific to recent sites, recent buildings. And in that case, we directly send the information to the BMS, which is still linked to the equipment, and we continue to give the let's say the correct information to the equipment to continue operating. So we can, let's say, directly connect to the BMS by programming our algorithm to via Modbus or BACnet or whatever you can imagine as a communication system. Our engineers are able to do that, and we can provide the information from the algorithm from the cloud directly to the BMS. What is your advantage from competitors such as Nuka? I'm sorry, personally, not directly aware of what Nuka is providing. So we are not the only one, of course, providing this kind of solution. I mean, starting from the sensors. Actually, there are not so many companies that are closing the loop, let's say, and going towards the optimization and the concrete and complete, let's say, management of the equipment. Okay, this one is in Japanese, too complicated for me, sorry. But anyway, as I said, you get my contact references here in the presentation. Hopefully, Zineb can share that with you. And I will be more than happy to answer some more questions through mail if it's needed, or if you just have some more here, no problem. And I will, of course, share with you the information about our joint venture in Japan.
Yeah, currently we are trying to make such kind of service in Japan, but collaboration is better because you have already established such kind of great system. So integration to Japanese society is better for me. So yeah.
So please, yeah,
this. Yeah.
You can just contact me directly, and we will share the information to facilitate this contact.
Okay, good.
Great. Perfect. So thanks again, Roberto. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. So let's hear about Metricus. Josh, the floor is yours.
Hi there. Hi everyone. Thanks for your time. I'm just going to introduce you to Metricus. So we make your buildings work smarter and not harder. So Metricus is a world-leading software platform where we combine world-class technology, visualizations, with the very best sensors on the market to make your spaces smarter, safer, and more sustainable. As you'll all know, in order to make key important decisions, whether that's project related or to do with the built environment, we need that data. And you can pull that data from various different sensors, and there's a whole load of different data points. The key challenge, though, is that it's all siloed. It's not into one place. So what we do is we aggregate all of the data together onto a single digital platform. Also, some people can call this a digital twin. So we've integrated with over 38 different hardware partners already, but we are hardware agnostic, so we can integrate and pull any API. On the left, you'll see we've integrated with some legacy systems, some BMS. This is to allow the automation side. We're hosted on Microsoft Azure. So Microsoft are one of our key global partners, alongside Avanade and Accenture, who work on the technology consultancy side. We've integrated with room booking systems, so the likes of Office App and Condeco. And then we've integrated with various different sensor providers, so the IoT sensors. Our good friends at Disruptive Technologies, you can see there on the bottom left, and we actually have a few of their sensors in our office. So we can pull in all of their different data sets. But the key point here is that we're then able to overlay that data with other providers. So yes, you can look at the temperature from a DT sensor, for example, but then you can start to overlay it with other occupancy sensors, or you can start to overlay it with room booking systems so that you can understand when a room has been booked and then whether someone's actually turned up. It's looking at the predictive patterns and then the actual occupancy in that case. In the middle, you'll see three of our core, sorry, if you could just go back one slide. In the middle, you'll see three of our core spaces. So the workspace is probably the biggest part. This is all to do with your commercial real estate, your office buildings. So it's making sure that you can understand the space utilization within that building, but also understand things like indoor air quality, just to make sure that people are returning to an office environment safely. In the middle, this is a huge part since COP26 in particular, and it's all surrounding indoor air quality and energy. So making sure that your buildings optimized and performing to the best quality, and yeah, that reduced energy savings in that side. The compliance space, again, very much to do with the maintenance side, so particularly relevant for the construction business. It's been able to pull data from various different sources, whether that's energy meters, from your BMS as well, so you have all of that data in one place so that you can provide that for compliant reasons. Next slide, please. So the key features between the platform. At its core, we're a data warehouse. So we make it easily accessible, make all your data easily accessible in one place, in one single digital platform. On the right-hand side, you'll see that we have analytics dashboards. So these are various different data views that can provide all that data for you, where you'll be able to overlay different data sets and start to look at the different trends, both in real time and historically. On the left, you'll see again exportable reports. So we look at ESG reporting. making sure that you pull in all of the data so that you can print out those reports or you can pass them on to the relevant stakeholders. And then the alerts function. So yes, it's great. You have all that data and you're able to look at the trends, but you also want to be able to look at that predictive maintenance side. You want to know before something has broken so that you can react quickly. So it's working with the likes of DT again, putting sensors on things like HVAC units to look at vibrations. You might want to look at the temperature to try and preempt those possible problems. And on the right, this is probably the largest part. This is the open API. So we've got the platform, we've got the data views that you can visualize. But if you had your own platform, you can also pull out the API and push it to your own platform. So that allows for easy access for connectivity. Next slide, please. So this is just a quick demo, 20-second video of the platform, just to give you a feel for the visualizations. So here you can see our office building in London. You can see the various different sensors, the heat maps you can add, some of the data views available. So this one is for indoor air quality, its relationship with productivity as well. Next slide, please. So our solutions help in various different ways, but the core part is to make those buildings smarter, safer, more sustainable. So that's to improve the efficiency, optimize all those various different tasks to help you save time. We want to encourage safe spaces. So making sure that employees are coming to safe buildings, that their productivity is at the highest point it can be, and looking at saving those costs. So there's a huge push in terms of the sustainability side of things, making sure it's energy efficient and really optimizing all of those processes. On the bottom right, again, you can see the mastering of the maintenance. So reducing those failures before they've actually happened. And again, to create those more efficient maintenance regimes. So next slide, please. So now just go into detail on a couple of our core use cases. So this is a big piece on the commercial side. So we work with clients such as Brookfield Properties, Oxford Properties, some of the largest banks in the world as well, to look at their built environment and understand whether they actually need all the space. And it's really to right size the building. So it's to look at the floor capacity and work out, right, do we need to expand to another floor? Do we need to get a new building? Or is what we've got enough for the employees, and also making it as energy efficient as possible? Next slide, please. Another part could be indoor air quality. So recently we've deployed with Bentall Green Oak in Japan, and there's been a huge piece on indoor air quality. So we're deploying sensors over there on a number of different buildings to really understand the various different parameters in their building. So that could be to its temperature, CO2, humidity. And what this will allow is that they'll be able to look at their building and identify various different ventilation issues, hot and cold spots between different floors, to really ensure that the buildings are great for the tenants to then come in. Because there's a huge amount of value you can add to the tenants by providing that safe environment that's also a healthy environment for them to thrive in as well. And there's various different dashboards that you can set up and kiosk modes. So you can welcome someone into a building and show them the different air quality parameters. Again, it's just that promote that confidence that they're returning into a good environment. And on the right, so we work with the Met Office. If you don't know them, they're the provider of all the weather forecast in the UK. So we've deployed in some of their data centers and some of their large offices within the UK as well. Next slide, please. And then the energy monitoring, and this is a huge piece at the moment. What we do is, first of all, we monitor the energy within a building, but then we also want that integration with the BMS. So to be able to predict different trends, overlay things like occupancy data, so that you can start to predict when a building will be used, how many people will be on there, so that you can then affect the different energy consumption levels on that building. Again, this is to do with the goal of ESG, looking at making those buildings as efficient as possible, with the final goal of reducing your carbon footprint. Next slide, please. So just to sum up, we understand that all of that data is available. What we want to do is bring it all together into a single digital platform to make your lives easier, save you time and money. If you'd like to get in touch with that, then I've put my email address just at the bottom. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Josh. We have a few first questions. Your client is mainly building owner real estate firms?
So it's a mixture. We work with a lot of large landlords. So I named a few of them, sort of the Brookfields of the world, but then also lots of tenants as well. So you've got a lot of banks don't actually necessarily own their buildings. So Morgan Stanley, for example, have various different buildings that they are tenants in. This also means that we work with multi-tenanted buildings. So you might find that you have the Metricus platform deployed within a building, but then different tenants within that building have access to different floors. You can sort of constrict exactly who can see everything. It's another one. Yes, so we're also, the NHS are one of our partners, so we're deployed with some of the NHS buildings, so the National Health Service in the UK, and in warehouses as well. The data centers, so for the Met Office, for example, we've deployed in data centers and also doing sort of remote monitoring. So we've placed the sensors in those areas so that the actual facilities managers and maintenance team don't actually have to go out to site. They can visualize all of the data on the platform, and they can also receive alerts, so via SMS or via email, so they can know exactly how their building is performing. Automatic adoption. Yeah, so there's a couple of reasons for that. So the BMS systems at the moment, they're slightly outdated, and they can also not necessarily store as much data as other platforms. So there's also there's two sides to it. One of it is basically making sure that you can monitor a space correctly, and then be able to automate that process. So we have a BMS partner who we work with, that we're able to push our data to what's called a smart server, and then they can pass that on to the BMS. So you can start to automate changes. Again, a large part of this is that predictive side. So once you can look at the trends, you can understand, right, there's no one going to be turning up to a building at the weekends, for example. You can then turn off the HVAC system. It's all of that automation based on predictive analysis. So we actually have so the current version of the platform is version 3, and version 4 is due to release end of Q1, Q2. And the large part of this is basically to give the customers the choice and the chance to be able to integrate their own sensors. So we will provide the platform for them, but then they'll be able to connect various different sensors. So some of the other companies on here today might have their own API. They have the ability to then connect to our platform, so we can pull in all of that data into one single digital platform, so that you have all your data ready for you. Are there any more questions?
Would this be best integrated if the whole building applies a system instead of separate tenant to see the whole data around the building?
So you can get a lot of insights just by looking at how a floor is performing. And a lot of our clients actually might start on sort of monitoring a particular floor and then looking to expand across the building. For the clients that sort of have, so the landlord clients that have multi-tenants, a core part might be to start monitoring like a landlord area. So understanding the basic trends, the flow of people within a building, and then you can start to break it down to the individual tenant level. It depends. There's different use cases for different landlords and different tenants. A landlord might be more interested in saving costs, adding that actual value to the tenants, whereas a tenant might be more interested. So say you have an office building, they might want to be wanting to encourage people to come back to the building, and doing so by providing that healthy building environment. So there's different use cases. In an ideal world, you'd have the whole building performing as smart as it can, so having the full building, but we do it on a floor basis as well.
Thank you.
No worries.
Thank you very much. Very interesting, and I will send message to LinkedIn.
Great. No worries.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Josh.
Thank you.
So finally, we'll have Andrea's presentation of Parkery.
Hello. Yeah, thank you very much for the introduction. So I'll start. I think so. What we do is, in terms of value proposition, very in line with what David from Clever City has presented. So we also do provide real-time parking occupancy information, and the core difference is that we are based on purely software, and we rely on images from literally any camera. Next slide. So the idea is that the three, let's say, kind of needs that we mostly solve with our software on one side, the displaying to the drivers the availability of where are the available parking spots, so that they can be navigated directly to such spots. Another use case which popped up quite often is also to find out which vehicles are staying for too long in a certain parking spaces. This is mostly for enforcement purposes. And the other need that we solve is also to help the owners of the parking lots to better understand the usage of their parking areas. So, for example, where do drivers normally park, or how long they stay, or what's the average occupancy in a certain day of the week. So these are all answers that we can provide by aggregating our data. And all we need as input, as I just mentioned, is just images from any camera. So they can be webcams, traffic cameras, fisheye cameras. They work indoor, outdoor. So the idea is that we can replug our software to any images. Next. So the results we deliver, this is a sample from one of our projects. It's basically the real-time situation of a parking area. This is, of course, quite an ideal scenario because with a single camera, we can monitor 280 parking spaces. So it's a very good configuration of the parking lot. The camera is on top of a building. And what you see there is basically our data. So the green dots are obviously the available parking spaces, whereas the color one represent the duration. And this is just a parameter that the client can configure. But in this case, for example, the yellow dots are the cars that just arrived, and the orange are those that are staying for a few hours. Next. So what you see here in our dashboard is just a representation basically of this data. So you can, of course, see where the available spots are on a map. Next. You can display such information to drivers either with panels like those that were presented before by Clever City. We can basically interface our data with any panels. We just push basically numbers to such panels based on the information we retrieve from the images. Next. And another example of visualization is, of course, also finding out on a map where are the cars which are staying for more than 3 hours, for example. So you can easily filter through our web interface and find out, and you can even download a time-lapse video of a specific car in case you want to double check that it's actually the same car staying there for so long. Next. And indeed, a use case that we have quite frequently is to send automated alerts. So what we can do is we can send to our clients an email whenever a certain car in an area stays for more than a desired time. So basically when some overstay events happen, then we can send these automated alerts. Next. At the same time, our dashboard allows to also monitor and analyze a bit the situation in a certain parking area. So you can see the average occupancy in a certain period. You can see which are the spots which are mostly used by the client. So in this case, you see it's mostly on the bottom left versus the top right, which is less used. And this is simply because there's the entrance of the company where this system is deployed. Next. Here, I just show you some examples of the kind of information we can deliver. So the same software can be applied also to detect occupancy of other types of vehicles. So, for example, of trucks, like in this project here from the US. Next. The solution works in different conditions. So here you see a night image. We don't need, let's say, a very bright source, but of course the cars need to be distinguishable from a human eye for our software to detect them. And this is normally sufficient then with just public illumination. Next. Another question that we often receive is how does the system perform in case of adverse weather? So here you have an example with snow. It's actually a project we run in Siberia. So in this case, basically the software has been trained with images from basically the whole world and in all the different weather conditions. So now it's very accurate basically in any sort of condition. Next. And the data then is delivered either through our web interface or also simply via API. So we can just deliver the data and then our clients can integrate the data into their own platform, into a smartphone app, as I said before, into panels for dynamic guidance. So we provide the data that's the core of our offering, and then the clients can use this data as they please. And one example is also in the next slide. So we have integrated our data with a few smartphone app providers, so to also deliver this real-time availability in apps, if this is what the owners of the parking lot need. Next, you will also see an example of feeding the data to dynamic guidance panels. So also in this case, data can be delivered through our APIs and can then be displayed through panels. So here is more or less an overview of different types of solutions that we offer. Next, I will just give you a quick overview of who we are. So we are based in Zurich. We are a spin-off from ETH, which is one of the best technology schools in the world. And our core expertise is really computer vision and deep learning software. So basically understanding automatically what is going on in videos and images. At the moment, we are actually more than 100 projects worldwide. And the mission is really to provide real-time and accurate data to mobility operators and parking lot owners, both in terms of parking availability and also in terms of other data that one can extract from images. Next, here you see a bit of an overview of where our projects currently are. We have a good network of partners and resellers that help us reach markets that we would not be able to reach alone from Switzerland. So, for example, US, Asia, but of course our presence is mostly strong in Europe. So Switzerland and neighboring countries. Next. So the nice part is that the technology is very simple to explain. So we, as I said before, we use images that can come from any cameras. We process them with our software, and then we deliver the real-time availability and duration information. You can, of course, as you also have seen in this event, get the same information with other technology. So either with ground-based sensors or with other devices that are installed on mast. We believe that the most flexible solution that we provide gives a lot of advantages, especially in terms of hardware cost and also in terms of how many parking spots can be monitored with a single device. Next. So when we talk about cameras, normally also one of the questions we always receive is about privacy and data protection. What is very important to mention is that the images we use do not normally contain any personal data. So the cameras are installed in such a positions and with such resolutions that people cannot distinguish license plates nor faces. In the rare case that this happens, we can simply blur this automatically so that in the end, what is processed is actually not containing any personal data. Next. We also offer a service in terms of planning. So in case a client doesn't have cameras installed, we can propose what's the best camera installation strategy to monitor a parking lot with the least hardware, of course, so that we can monitor every spot with just a few cameras normally. Next, I will now present you some additional solutions that one can think because, as I said, when we use normal cameras, next and next again. So, for example, we can also read text into images. So this is a project we actually did in Paris a while ago. So the idea is to monitor bus parking occupancy, but not only that, we would also distinguish which bus is parked where using this code on the roof of the buses. so that the client could know in real time where each bus was just by using cameras. Next. But the solution is actually very flexible and powerful, so it could also be applied to parking of other objects. So we have also done a few projects in a warehouse, storage monitoring, also there with cameras. Next, and recently also in times of COVID, we have also carried on a few projects on detecting and counting people, measuring their distances, and finding out also there with just standard cameras what the occupancy of a certain square, like in this example from Germany. Next. And finally, so very recently, we have also started looking more into the traffic measurement. So counting vehicles, understanding which vehicles there are, how fast they go at crossroads. So this is also something that we can now deploy. And we also have, I think, 3 or 4 projects in this direction also to measure this kind of information. Next. So this concludes my presentation. I'll be happy to take questions, and thanks a lot for your attention.
Thanks, Andrea. Thank you so much. We have some first questions. I know we just have 2 minutes remaining for the official hour. So for those that have to disconnect, thank you so much for assisting to the pitch session or pinching your solutions. I'll send you the details and the contacts of the relevant persons that you want to be put in contact with. And as for your question, Andrea, we have a very useful comment and a question. All information is from camera images?
That's correct. Yes, that's it.
Okay. And is it possible to predict availability using track record?
Yeah, normally this is very simple because parking data is not rocket science. It's very predictable and stable over time. So you can basically predict the future occupancy very well based on the current availability and on the historical data.
Okay, I see. Currently, we have collaborated with Anybotics, which is a spin-out startup robotics company from...
Yeah, we know them very well. They're our friends.
Okay. That's a comment from cooperation, actually. And another question saying, do you see Clever City as a competitor, or do you think you could collaborate?
So honestly, I mean, I've been knowing them, of course, for long. We were founded more or less in the same time. We have never collaborated. We are, I think, competing in the perception part, so how to detect the real-time occupancy. But on the same time, I could see, and I think also David mentioned this during the presentation, we could also certainly use the output devices, so either the platform or the panels in some of the projects. I mean, depending on the needs of the clients, for example, if they want to use existing cameras to get the data, but at the same time, they would like to use their panels and their platform. I think this is very open from our end.
Okay, that's great. Does anyone have any comments or questions? Lojzek, I don't know.
Thank you. Thank you. Super
You're
interesting.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot. Feel free to contact me by email directly, of course, in case you have any further questions.
I'll send every company. Yes.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, David. Thank you, Ben Jones, Alberto, Josh, and Andrea for those really insightful presentations. We will make sure to send them to Shimizu Corporation. And of course, we'll give you actually really give you contacts to everyone who was present today. We look forward to our next startup pitch sessions. The next one will be on the energy theme, and then will be followed with the clean tech theme. And we are really looking forward to hearing new solutions, new innovative startups that are part of our ecosystem. Thomas, Alice, and I are here to help you discover those great innovations. So thanks again. And of course, we are just an email or a phone call away. Have a great day, and looking forward to our next sessions.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Have a good day.
For your time.
Thank you. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.